Now, for parents of severely disabled children, everyday basic tasks like taking their child to the toilet need some military precision, but all too often it's made worse by facilities being cramped and filthy, meaning the child has to be changed on a dirty bathroom floor.
Well, now one mother has had enough and has launched a campaign to get providers to clean their act up. Here's Sky's Rhiannon Mills with more.
So they check the toilets here.
It says hourly. Maybe we're in for a pleasant surprise. Oh God, this is not nice, isn't it?
Would you put him on the floor in here?
No, probably not, to be honest.
Sarah realises that most of us wouldn't even think about cleaning the floor at a train station toilet.
Don't know what part of that is mud and what part of that is bodily fluids, do you?
Or one in a department store.
No, that looks like urine on the floor there.
Or at a coffee shop.
It's just making me want to gag already.
So where would you end up taking him to the toilet then, if you couldn't do it here?
Hey, I'd probably have to take him to the boot of the car. Which sounds awful, doesn't it? That I'd rather
And
change the car.
change his nappy
in
the car park.
Or try and get him to hold it and get back to my dad's.
And he's 7 years old now.
But often she has to lie her son on floors like this one if he needs the toilet because he has cerebral palsy.
When he's sobbing and begging me not to change him on the floor, it's really hard not to get upset myself. I have to properly put on a brave face.
Before Christmas, Sarah posted an advent calendar of toilet selfies to highlight the shortage of changing places for disabled children and adults. She was frustrated that something as basic as going to the toilet was holding back her family and Hadley.
What does it mean for you that your mum's been campaigning for this?
It's good for people and it'll help loads of people around the world.
So you were saying about lying on the floor?
Yeah.
Yeah? What's that like?
Really not fun. Really bad.
So this is the kind of facility she wants to see in every town and city.
So talk us through what you've got in here that makes it the ideal place for you and Hadley.
So first and foremost, you've got the hoist adjustable bed, which is amazing. So for us.
Online petitions are now calling for businesses and councils to install them. We contacted all of the businesses we visited. McDonald's apologised for Sarah's experience and said all their toilets are checked frequently and the floors are mopped regularly throughout the day. South Western Railway said they had a regular cleaning regime, apologised that the floor was found to be unclean, but said that would have been rectified on the next hourly check. But more often, this is what faces Sarah and Hadley.
It's just hideous. He's a child. He's being treated like scum. I have to do it to my child, so I feel like I need to experience what it's really like.
You going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Sarah knows that lying on the floor looks ridiculous, but she'll do anything to make businesses take notice. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Southampton.
Let's head down to Fareham, talk to Dan White, creator of Department of Abilities, campaigning on this issue. And most importantly, Dan, you're the dad of Emily, who we know pretty well, of course. Good to see you. Yes. Just talk us through the situations you have to face with Emily.
Very much the same as Sarah's, unfortunately. It's the case of, as a family, in some instances, you're scared to go out because if you do go out, you'll know you'll be stuck with these appalling toilets that are ill-designed, ill-thought-out, very small, urine-soaked floors where you have to lie Emily down, not only putting her health in danger, but also putting yourself in danger because you have to lift and lie her down in cramped spaces, which effectively just ruins your back.
I wonder what effect it has on her because, you know, she's... People may misunderstand. If they're not familiar with these sort of conditions, they may think we're talking about very young children. Emily's not a very young child, is she? So she's obviously very aware, she's very bright, very aware of what is going on here. How disturbing is it for her being in these conditions?
Well, it makes her feel perpetually worthless. I mean, in this instance, many of these children, like Emily, and like Sarah's child, have very complex health conditions, and actually lying them on a urine-soaked floor is not particularly a good idea. But it makes her feel just crushed. We had this incident yesterday at a local cinema where she was just, as you can see, she's lying on the floor. Her head's near the toilet, or her head is near the hand dryer, which could set off at any minute. It just makes her feel crushed inside that she's having to lie on a floor to literally be toileted.
I mean, it just seems remarkable to me. I mean, if people don't, I mean, I know you and I know Emily, and there is this sense that people designing these toilets and looking after these toilets without actually considering the human beings we're talking about here.
Exactly. I mean, the problem is they have to adhere to sort of like the basic plan of doing these things, that there's no law to say you have to install a change bed. So as far as these companies are concerned, they're not actually breaking the law, but they should be made to see there should be dialogue between the people who design and manufacture these things, actual dialogue between them and the communities that their decisions affect. And this is not happening. You think it would be perfectly obvious to come to a group, come to Sarah, come to me, come to Changing Places and say, look, we're going to build this. What do you want us to put in? Dialogue is the key. Dialogue is free. No more floors.
You've been campaigning on these sort of issues for a long time now. Are you making any progress, do you think? Are people listening more? Are you getting more headlines?
Well, I think we are. I mean, thanks to Sarah's wonderful work and other people like Laura Moore and people have Changing Places, that the cracks are starting to show and people are starting to listen. But the problem we have as a society and in England in general, that we're still terrified of talking about toileting. We're terrified of talking about going to the toilet. It's part of our culture that we just don't want to talk about that. And that's the thing that actually essentially needs to change. The more comfortable we are talking about toileting, the more we can have this debate, the more it can be pushed open, and the more people should come and talk to us so we can help them design and implement these places that absolutely need to happen for the sake of our child's health and just psychological well-being.
It's so basic, though, isn't it? I mean, that's what strikes me in all of this. We're talking about such a very basic issue. When, in a sense, what we need to be focusing on is how someone like Emily, when she's, you know, an adult, can have a prosperous life, a rewarding life, a good career, and all the rest of it, like anybody else.
Exactly. I mean, it just brings you that realisation again that the disabled community always seems to be at the back end of everything. I mean, whether it be political, financial, or even toileting, we always seem to be at the back end of things. I mean, I don't know why this is. I mean, there's also the aspect of shops and places like this should be actively installing changing rooms and Changing Places. I mean, could you have a vast community of disabled people who have, I think globally, $1 trillion of unspent purple pound money, which these shops could effectively have if they install Changing Places. People will go out to shop. Emily, as she grows older, would feel more comfortable going out to shop and spend money. It would be a win-win situation.
Yeah, it would. Dan, good to talk to you. As always, love to Emily.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Your thoughts on that, again, very welcome this morning at Sky. I've got to...
Well, let's talk now to Sam Buck. Her son, Alfie, has quadriplegic cerebral palsy, and like Sarah, she often has to change him on the floor of dirty toilets. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Tell us about some of the experiences that you've had to endure.
Now Alfie's almost 12. He's actually as tall as me. Getting quite big now, aren't you, Alf? And we end up not being able to put him on the toilet floor if I'm out by myself, because I literally have to drag him out of the wheelchair, and I can't physically lift him back into the wheelchair after I've changed him. So we can't do the toilet floor anymore, or unless we're super desperate. So ultimately he has to stay in his continence pad, and it overflows if you've been out for a while, and then we have to have a complete change when we get back home, and we have hoisting available in our home.
So what does that mean on a practical level? Are you not wanting to actually venture out with him because of the difficulties that you might face?
No, society wants us to not venture out, because that's generally the response we get is then don't go then. But you can't do that when I have 3 children, and we have to go shopping and everything that everybody does. You have to push through and make it work. And having public accessible toilets for Alfie with a hoist and bench, if they were just available and the norm, then we would be able to enjoy the community life, just being a part of just life, really. Otherwise, we just get stuck indoors.
So what are you doing to try and change the situation for yourself and others like you?
Well, there are quite a few petitions now with just thousands, over 100,000, almost 200,000 people that are supportive of what's going on. And, you know, it's 2017 now. It does state in the Equality Act, 2010, Section 20, that there is a duty to make change where one person cannot access something that another person can. So really, this should be the norm, and that's really what Alfie has been doing. He's been making a noise, basically, just to show people the reality of what it's like to have a severe physical disability.
And what does Alfie communicate to you about the fact that very many facilities aren't fully available to him, and as you say, that he can't simply use them at all?
That's right. Well, this is one of the reasons why I don't change him on the toilet floor right now, unless there's a team of us that go out, because Alfie can say yes and no and communicate with his eyes yes and no, and he's adamant it's no, 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 I don't want to go on the floor. It's quite disgusting. If you've ever laid on your own bathroom floor and had a look on the underside of the pan, that's basically what Alfie has to look at. But in a public area where there's all sorts, and he doesn't like it. So he's made his feelings quite clear, and me as his advocate, because he's non-verbal, I am happy to push that for him.
Do you accept that thus far it perhaps hasn't been on the radar of very many people who don't have a disabled person in their family, or companies even, who haven't really understood the implications of not having these facilities? Do you accept that perhaps thus far they haven't made it really that important in their considerations, but from this point might do so?
Absolutely. Before I had Alfie, I had no idea about what was behind a disabled toilet door sign. I thought it was all taken care of. But in reality, we are showing you that it's not. And so because we've raised this issue now, and it is in the Equalities Act, and the government should be behind that to... It's like a dog with no teeth, basically. If we need the government to enforce that it's done. It's not a suggestion that it should be done. Because we're making noise, like I say, and to bring this to everyone's attention that this is real. This is what happens. It's not just for disabled children. It's for Alfie's growing into an adult. He's almost a teenager now, and adults obviously can be severely disabled as well, and you know, the elderly, everybody's affected in one way or another.
Yes, we've had lots of tweets in this morning following on from our reports, and people truly shocked at the circumstances and conditions that people like yourself are having to endure. What sort of support have you had for the campaign, and what are you hoping to achieve ultimately?
The support really has been sporadic. It's all over the place. You get not very much support from local councils that are really the community's voice. You're supposed to go to them, and then they say, oh, OK, well, we'll work on that. That doesn't really happen. We are big companies, like social media has been a big help, so getting big companies to realise, and I think currently it's just IKEA that have just taken it on board to just do it. It's just, you know, yeah, sure, fine, if there's a need, we'll change it. Others are not doing that at all. It's just we need backing from the government is what we need. We need that law to change and to read that it must be followed through.
And the willingness of companies to take that on board. Sam, thank you very much for speaking to us, and thanks to Alfie too for appearing on camera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I wonder if it's a visibility issue, that people don't, you know, you look at that and you've got a mother and son in a lovely family and a beautiful boy. The fact he is not, you know, as most of us are, shouldn't be relevant, should it? His needs should be catered for.
But I think that, you know, the point that I was making, that it's not on the radar of very many people, but hopefully with campaigns like the Changing Places and reports that we've been running today, people do become aware, and it's everyone's issue, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. I find it so upsetting, actually, that people are struggling with things like this.
It is distressing when you look at some of the scenes, those filthy conditions. It is.
Well, your thoughts, please, at Sky Stephen, at Sky Gillian. We've got lots more still to come for you.